Hey guys, Carmine, Bianco, WagerTalk.com. I'm here with Nick Borrman, also of WagerTalk.com, and this is another episode number 3 of live in-game betting, where we're going to cover the North London Derby today. EPL game, two rivals, Tottenham, Arsenal, always a good game. Let's welcome to the show Nick Borrman. Nick, how's it going? How was that barbecue yesterday?
Barbecue was great, man. I'm super tired right now. Long day, up early, getting set up, and up late with everybody hanging out. So it wasn't too bad. It was about 11:30 when everybody left, so just before midnight. I tried to clean up a little bit, and then I was just too tired. And then this morning I got up again and started putting stuff away. Still have some stuff to do after the show, but it was a good time. Had a lot of people, good food. Playing volleyball, playing cornhole, swimming in the pool. So it was a lot of fun, man.
Awesome. I like how you said you started to do the cleaning and then you had to do the show, so someone else has got to do the cleaning for you.
Oh no, she stopped.
Yeah.
That's fancy.
Before we get to the game, and we're still about 10 minutes away from game time. I know there's some guys who might not be on Twitter but are following here, wondering about bets and such. And I did post some that we put in. But a majority of our bets, Nick and I reviewed this game, and a majority of the value I think is likely going to lie in in-game betting here. We just put some prop bets in to start with, and I sort of took the lead on the prop bet. So for you guys that aren't on Twitter or don't see it, these are the bets that we put in game. We took the under in the game, and we'll explain that little later as we get into the game, but took the under 2.5 over. It was minus 110 either way, so we've taken the under in this game. Also took under 10.5 corner kicks in this game, total corner kicks. It's something that as the game goes, there are options to reverse that and hedge it out, locking a bit of a profit. Took a 1-1 draw at exact score at plus 600, and then took first half Tottenham. It's a pick'em, so it's obviously if it's a draw at halftime, that bet pushes. And then the final one is, I always like to take these novelty ones. I took that there will be a penalty in the game, plus 200. That's mainly because my least favorite official is in charge of tonight's game, and that is Michael Oliver. So he sometimes will find that little round disc in the middle where he'll point at it and award a penalty. So I am going to take a penalty. And Tottenham were robbed of a penalty in midweek. So maybe Michael Oliver feels like he'll want to give one to Tottenham. Nick?
Yeah, this was a tough one. We were both back and forth. I mean, pregame we talked about, well, you could argue this way, you could argue this way. I could listen to an argument on either side, on either way of the total, and say, you know what, that sounds like a good bet. And it was tough. I think this is a perfect game for us to do live, because the first two we did, we both had the same inclinations ahead of time, and we were able to see that happen, get more on it, get a better line, whatever, as we went through the game. This one's totally different, where we weren't 100% sure. But you could argue both ways, and it's a perfect situation to find out, all right, well, let's see what happens as this game starts. Who looks better? Who looks sharper? Who's playing a little faster? Where do we think the value lies as the game goes on, and is there opportunities as it goes? I lean a little bit to the under before the match, is why we put in the under bet Carm was talking about. So the only negative to an under, if you lean under and it's going towards an under, you're never going to get a better line on it. So it's a little tough. The hope is maybe there's an early goal, but it was a luck goal or something like that, and the run of play doesn't look like it's going to be high scoring. Then sometimes you can get even a better number than you would have got pregame with the live. So we'll see what happens there. But the side here, 53% likelihood or chance, I guess, is I give to Arsenal just a little edge. Only because their form has been pretty good. They've been playing pretty well, but this match really doesn't matter with how the teams are playing. It's the London Derby, so anything can happen. So it's going to be a fun one to do live. We'll see what happens as these teams hit the field, and it looks a little bit better. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good one, and just to give you some ideas, on sort of like the thinking here, um, with regards to, I'm just gonna give you some match day odds as well too as we go. But the thinking with obviously initially with the under play here was the fact that Spurs aren't really scoring right now. You can see it; they're struggling. They're playing more of that Mourinho type of soccer where you build into the play. I think they're during this off season or during the transfer window they're going to need to spend some money to make this team a little bit better. And then you have Arsenal, who we've always talked about it, especially on the away from home. That defense is, and Nick, we used this during the I think during the Friday show, the Jekyll and Hyde, where I kind of screwed that up, but it's a similar thing where you just
Yes.
don't know what you're going to get with them. The always weird David Luiz. But this is a team that is starting to play the way Mikel Arteta wants them to play. They're playing a much better defensive game, and you've seen it in the results. Their recent results tell you that they are playing the style that he wants them to play. He understands, they've got a good attack, but you look that game against Leicester. That Leicester obviously goal came 11 versus 10 after a red card, but Arsenal played one of their best games of the season and definitely their best first half of the season. The game against Wolves, they went to Wolverhampton and beat them 2-0. This Wolves team came back and easily beat Everton today 3-0. Sheffield United in the FA Cup game 2-1. With sort of a makeshift lineup, but still a strong lineup. They went to Southampton, another 2-0 win. So, they're showing results here. Other than that first game against Man City, where the first game since the restart, where again David Luiz picks up a red, which leads to a penalty, and then things fall apart for an Arsenal. But prior to that red, they were playing Man City very tight. I think that first goal came for City in the 47th minute, which is the second minute of injury time in that first half. So they were playing. You're seeing what City is doing right now as far as goal scoring. So there's a lot to be said that absent of an early goal, this one could be heading towards an under.
Yeah, I agree with that. Arsenal was. I mean, listen, the City result, they were playing good, and it's not a surprise that they lost, of course. What was disappointing for the Gunners for me was that next game against Brighton. And I was just thinking to myself, it's typical Arsenal this year. But then they really got it together after that, and like you said, have looked really good in their last five games now. So that's why I'm leaning that way. They look like they're a team in better form. They're playing very, very well on the defensive side of the ball. And I wonder how they would be in the table if they were playing like this all year long. It's a team that they have the talent, they got the names up front, and for some reason they just look at the scoreboard every weekend and be like, how'd they lose that match? How'd they draw that match? They should have won that. And you watch some of the replays, you watch some of the game, and you're like, okay, I can see how. And it's disappointing really for them. And it's good to see for them, for the fans. It's finally getting it together. Some hope, I guess, going into next season that they could possibly get another back to the Champions League and top 4 spot, but they've been a ways off from that for a while. So hopefully Arteta is the guy to kind of take them to that next level again and bring them back to their glory days. But they really have been, for me anyway, a very difficult team to handicap and to try to bet on. It seems like every time you think that they play poorly, they step up, and then every time you're like, come on, they got to win this game, and they lose 2 or 3. What the hell just happened? So
Yeah.
frustrating teams at least, but right now I think it's the one time in the entire season I look at them and go, you know what, this team makes sense. This is how I expected them to go. And hopefully they, well, I guess not hopefully anything. We don't have any really money on either side right now, other than we got a little bit on Tottenham in the first half. I still lean a little bit towards Arsenal in the full game. We'll see. I think overall, I can see a well-defensive side game. Tottenham's not going to be scoring or struggling to score. I think the Gunners are doing a good job defensively. So looks like they're just getting ready to kick off
Yeah,
now.
and for you guys watching, one quick note before we get into this game because they're about to kick off. Usually, we can watch the live feed on a station like Bet365, and from from Skype to broadcast to what you guys are actually seeing from us here. There's probably like a 30-second delay. We'll see a goal, and announce the goal, and then 30 seconds later, you guys see it here, and you're like, these guys are on delay. We're not actually on delay. We're seeing it in real time, so our comments are in real time. With this game here, it is not on. Obviously, the live wagering is on Bet365, but we'll be watching it on either a TV app or something else, which is likely delayed another 15 seconds or so. So this show, unlike the other ones, will have probably a good 45-second delay on it. So you'll have to excuse that and take that into consideration when you're listening to what we're saying. But we'll try and get the action to you as quick as possible.
I was just looking at some of the comments. Somebody was talking about the Atalanta team, and I was just responding back to them that, yeah, they're a team to certainly not bet against right now. They continue to perform every single week, and anybody they're a team to avoid, I think, in the Champions League too. I can't wait to watch them as they get as the Serie A season ends and they move on to the Champions League. But I unfortunately did not get to watch that game yesterday because we had that barbecue. And, of course, that was the one game I'm like, oh, gosh, I can't wait to watch this. And I'm looking at the date going, wait a minute. So I missed the whole thing. I know you were watching it, Carmine, and obviously your rooting interest lied with Juve. But I don't know how the game went. I don't know. I saw the scoreline, too. I don't know what happened on the field. I don't know if the score dictates the play on the field or if one side was better than the other. But, happy to see it.
I definitely think that Atalanta played the better of the two. They really took the play to Juve early. They got that first marker. They're a different team when they have to play from behind, but playing from ahead makes them that more. I think I really wish that the one bet I missed in that game was taking, and I talked about it in the 2 previous weeks, was taking Duvan Zapata to score. Because he just seems to do it, And the thing is, it's been 30 Serie A games, league games, since Atalanta have ever beaten Juve. So you had to go back to like 1989 or whatever. But taking, we talked about it midweek. It was only a quarter of a goal. I thought if you got half a goal, it was probably a play if you could get half a goal. But such a good game. In the end, obviously 2 handballs led to 2 penalties, and a draw, but definitely an upside. There's nothing better than for both these teams to make it to the Champions League final and play again, but it's doubtful that'll happen.
Yeah, that's a lot of teams to get through. But they remind me of last year's Ajax team, which is what I'm wearing right now. They're just a team that gets up and down the field. They can play with anybody. They're not scared of anybody. And if they strike first, as you mentioned, they can be tough to come back on a beat because they don't let up. They don't go into defensive mode. They don't quit. They keep coming at you, and it's tiring over the course of 90 minutes. So it's a very scary team when you play them and you see them coming up next in your schedule. You're like, oh gosh, not them. So I'm excited to see them as they go into the team.
Yep. The one thing I wanted to mention as this game is now underway and it's about 3.5 minutes into the game, that we talked about in taking the under 2.5, only because the juice was only about it was only minus 110, is absent of an early goal in this game. If this gets to like the 20-25 minute mark, maybe even the 30-minute mark, that total stays at 2.5. But now the over. And if you want to get out of it, you can easily get out of it and not lose any money because the over 2.5 would be probably about plus 130, 135. So you can get out of that bet quite easily. So obviously with an early goal, that total is in a bit of trouble.
Correct. And if it gets to halftime or further, and you're for whatever reason, want to get out of the bet, maybe the game is got a lot of chances, and we're lucky there hasn't been a goal so far. Maybe 1.5's on the board, and you can look to take that and get yourself out of it. I don't know what the price exactly might be. Still might be a -110 number, or maybe it gets to a plus number where there's really no risk on it, but then you have a chance to middle it too. So we'll see as it goes. But you're not gonna, if there's no goal early, we're certainly not going to get a better position on the under at any point during the game. So it's hard when you're taking under. If the game's going the way you like it, it's hard to get more action onto an under as the game goes, because obviously the line is just going to continue to get harder to beat an under as 2 drops and then 1.5 drops, and as you said, the juice just keeps coming through the higher and higher as you go. Yeah. So it's there's a lot more on an under for me. I always see there's a lot more hedge opportunities to perhaps guarantee yourselves a little bit of money, maybe not your full wager, than there is necessarily going the other way. But it's hard to get more money onto an under.
Well, so far we're about 5 minutes in. I'm just having a look at and if you look at the numbers, the pregame numbers told you how close this game was. Both Tottenham and Arsenal were at about +170 in the game. The draw was a little lower. If you look at like there's a site that's called Euro Club Index, which will give you like index numbers on these teams and win percentages on the side. So. And a lot of it is based on the actual numbers of the game. So you look at a game like like today's Tottenham Arsenal one, and Tottenham had by their numbers a 43.9% chance of winning this game outright. Arsenal's 29.7%, and the draw 26.4. The draw number at 26.4 is a very high number, considering you'll usually see numbers in the high teens. So, it stands to reason again, and the match odds will show you that, is that it's one of those games where they're looking at low scoring, and it has something to do with Tottenham. They're sort of scoring futility the last little while, and Arsenal playing better under Arteta.
Yeah, for sure. I'm watching trying to get a feel right now. I mean, it's early. It's hard to get a real feel in the first few minutes because it doesn't really mean a lot. One team can come out and do something, and not seeing anything crazy one way or the other. You mentioned the draw being a high percentage during this game, which, you look at it makes sense when you look at the beginning line too, where they have the game as a pick'em, and it's just alludes to the fact that these teams are so close, at least from a betting perspective of where's the value on either side. And a draw usually will be priced, I guess I'm going to say higher, but lower as far as the odds go when you have these teams that are very, very close like this. And it's a good indication as we get late into the season. I know, Carm, you like to look at opportunities. Not that this is one of those games, but you like to look at opportunities late in the season of teams that would both be happy with the point. This is not one of them games, as I said, but those type of situations you might see draw percentages, 35%? As it gets,
and one of them, I'm actually going to see if that line is up, because we talked about it prior to the show. So let me just have a look to see if it is up there. But right now it's at 25.9. I expect it to be much higher draw percentage wise. But with Aston Villa winning today and going to 30 points, they're 4 points from safety. But both West Ham and Watford have 34 points. There's 3 games left in the season. Next week, West Ham and Watford play each other, and it's a perfect game where a draw helps both teams. It gives them a 5-point spread with a couple of games left, and it's hard to think that Aston Villa, being where they are right now, are going to win 2 of their last 3 games, and they have games against Everton next week at Everton. Then they're home to Arsenal, who are playing very well, and then finish with West Ham. So if you look at the draw odds, they're actually at +200, and I expect it probably to be a little lower. After this weekend's games, you'll probably see +190 on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking at Brian Rowe just said United is -500 to finish top 4. Is that true?
Are they
That's
minus 900 to finish?
you,
If you could
nice
get minus 900 on who?
on
Oh,
Man United.
if you get minus 900, I would probably take that because, well, looking at just looking at the games in general, uh, there's what, a 1 point gap, I believe, right now with Chelsea, and obviously they
Yeah,
did not look good.
there's Leicester.
Um, and Leicester's there too, and Leicester has not been um, playing well of late. They've only got one win in their last four. If you look at Chelsea, they finish off the season with a game at Liverpool. They play Wolves. Uh, those are, and that's after playing Norwich, which is probably a gimme. The Liverpool, you got a Liverpool team that is still chasing the 100 points. So you can look at that and say that there's a good chance Chelsea are going to drop some more points. One thing to look at, you look at what Leicester has left, and as far as Leicester goes, they play Bournemouth next. They play Sheffield United, who are playing very well. They play at Tottenham, and then the important one, and this is the one, they play Manchester United on the final match day.
That's pretty
So,
awesome. I just look at
so
the schedule
you
going,
have to
wow,
look at
that's
it
a
going
great
into
way to
that
end.
last week of the season. If things remain the same as they are right now, the Man United, if you have them at plus 900, you're literally taking them plus 900 to beat Leicester in that final game.
Correct. Which is why, yeah, which is a good situation to possibly wait on too. Um, I following or going back to a minute ago on that Kane almost opened the scoring with that little kick, tried to lob it over the goalkeeper. It got stopped. I was just
Yeah.
watching the replay on that.
If you see me moving
Okay.
around in my chair, it's because I've lost my cell phone here. Sorry, guys. And I was gonna stream a game from there just to get the odds a little bit better. So you'll have to excuse me if I move off the screen for a minute. And of course, it was right behind my laptop, so I'm good now.
Always in the simple place.
All right. Yeah, I think it's we're 11 minutes in right now, and if we're looking at the in-game sort of betting lines, because we'll get some to you obviously as we go on this, but the over, as I was stating, we're only like 13 minutes in, and the over is now plus 120. So you could easily hedge out. If you're watching the game and you don't like the way it's going, you think that there's some goals in this game, you could easily get out of that under 2.5 by taking the plus 120 and offsetting the minus 110 that you laid on this game.
I noticed the odds shifted on the full-time result. It was not major, but when we first started, it was Tottenham plus 175 and Arsenal plus 160, and those have reversed. Did you notice that?
I didn't actually. I'm seeing plus 160 Tottenham and Arsenal plus 175. Um, uh, Pre-game when I checked it looked like one of them was plus 170, the other one was 162. So it's one of those things. Let me just lower this volume here and watch the game with you guys, so we're a little bit better. So, but yeah, definitely it's one of those things. If we're looking at the in-game stats so far for this game, as far as corners, there's only been one corner so far, 13, 14 minutes in, so that bodes well for the under corners bet. Obviously, the Tottenham halftime line at a pick'em is a push right now. So right now there's not much happening in these games as we thought there would be, but that can change very quickly, especially with Michael Oliver as today's official. Nick, you still there?
Hard to get a feel for your side right
Yeah.
now, Carm. I'm not. I mean, both have had Maybe one. Arsenal just had one decent opportunity where they got the ball in the box pretty good, but a little bit going on and nothing. Kind of the beginning, the way I felt in the beginning is like I'm just not sure on either side. I still lean a little bit Arsenal. I may want to, if we continue to see them get any sort of action going and chances coming forward, if their price starts to push 200 at some point, which will take some time yet.
Yeah.
I may want to start to dabble into that market. And it doesn't have to be big. We can just talk about little dollars, because at that point now you're starting to get pretty good value on your play. So it's not like you have to go full wager that you wanted to in the beginning of the match. And again, anytime that you don't truly know and you don't truly have a feeling, it's okay to say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to pass on this game or this particular market, the side being the market we're talking about here, because we already are on the under. It's always okay. Your money's always going to be there the next day. But as you watch and you still feel like you have some value on a play and you see something in the game, maybe something a little bit smaller is a good way to go.
Hi to the guys joining us. Brian Rowe, One Time Sports, El Ray, Abel, who continues to hit these parlays, this time in League MX. Brian Watson. Guys, thanks for joining stuff. I think someone mentioned, I think it was Brian Rowe mentioned, and I see the odds have come up off the screen, so it looks like we have got something happening here, and it looks like it's an Arsenal goal. So Arsenal 1-0. I'm just catching up to it on my actual live stream, but on Bet365 I'm seeing.
That was a rocket of a shot. Lacazette with the rocket.
Oh, that is, oh my God. Wow.
Gee.
Top shelf where Mama hides the cookies. Wow, that's one hell of a goal there. And now the in-game line is Arsenal minus 163, Tottenham's plus 450, and the draw is plus 275. So Gunner's on the board first. Wow. He is.
That was a screamer.
Yeah, you know, I think his odds to score a goal were about plus 140. They were slightly better than that of Lacazette's, who was plus 107. So that's like one hell of a strike there. So wow, yeah, that's one hell of a strike there. So Spurs, yeah, Spurs in front. Somebody had mentioned. Sorry, I got off track for a bit, but someone had mentioned Man United to win the Europa at plus, I think it's plus 235 or plus 275. Plus 275 is actually a pretty good price on this team to win the Europa. They are just playing absolute lights out football right now since the addition of Bruno Fernandes. He just adds so much to that team. You've got Pogba now, who seemingly is healthy, but also happy. In that midfield, and these two guys, and then Greenwood. Did you see the game by Greenwood? This kid just looks like he's getting better each and every game. And I hate to say it, if you're a Man United fan, please chime in and tell me I'm wrong, but this does not bode well for a guy like Rashford, because if you have to improve this team in the offseason and bring someone else in, you can't keep Greenwood on the bench much longer.
Yeah, he's a guy that'll be sought after very soon. I'm very unhappy if he's not getting playing time, because you're right, he's looked very, very good. Good young player.
This game has quickly turned on its heels again. Tottenham now on the board, so we're tied at 1 here. So it's like you said. We'll start looking for some in-game value now. A lot of the stuff that we wanted to avoid pre-game with this, with these bets, we did. We had a couple small prop bets in there just to give us something to watch for, but it looks like Son with the goal there. So, and this looks like this was another Arsenal defensive lapse, and
Yep,
and they gave it away, and we're tied at 1.
Yep. Yeah. It wasn't Luis's fault.
No, it wasn't. And I'm quite happy that he didn't try and bring Son down in the box because it would have been a red, a penalty, and well, we would have
Yeah.
won the penalty bet, but it would have turned this game on its heels. But we've got some action now happening, so um, for you guys who love the over, this is looking good for you. Definitely, both teams to score is a winner as well.
Yeah, that's a quick winner. Both goals, even the Arsenal goal, came on a defensive mistake, though. Quick turnover deep in their side. So I don't know what that indicates as far going forward yet. But both goals haven't been from an offensive buildup. Just to note that in case you're thinking alive, taking more on the over. Not that it's a bad bet, but it's not like the teams generated the chances, on their own, which is something I kind of like to look at is, if the team's consistently generating chance after chance after chance, that's where you can get a lot of well, not a good price necessarily, but that's where it would make sense to look towards the over. But if you get, I don't want to call these fluke goals by any means, but they're certainly not goals you would expect to happen on a consistent basis. They're not generated offensively. It's a poor mistake on the defensive side. And they happen, of course, but they're not going to continue to happen as often as good offense would happen. So just worth noting that I don't know what's the over-under line at right now. It's probably up to at least 3.5, actually probably closer to 4.5. But I would be weary on trying to go any more to the over at this time just because I don't know yet if these teams are really offensively getting the chances that you see when you see a 1-1 scoreline, you think, oh, geez. But I don't think it's true to the way the games have played so far.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm doing some maintenance in the chat because anytime anyone comes in and posts a link on there, I'm going to get rid of it. So do not post links in our chat. Trying to get you to go to some viewing site where you've got to pay to watch the game and stuff. Someone mentioned, do you hedge out of the the under? It's impossible to hedge out of the under right now because of the fact that the alternate match line for 2.5 is now the under is plus 550, the over is minus 900. So this is one of those games where you can't. It literally needed to be at about the 20-minute mark with no goals before you could actually hedge out of that. So it's not one that you can do right now.
Yep, correct. No way to hedge out directly to that bet, but hopefully as the game goes on, maybe we find another opportunity to, in essence, get some of that money back or get positive between the bets. But yeah, that particular bet, no way to hedge out right now. But crazier things can happen. How many times have we seen games 1-1 in the 20th minute and end 1-1? Not that this will, but it can happen. So it's not over until it's over.
Definitely.
Right?
The live line right now is 3.5 over 188, so it's almost 2-1 that you'd have to lay to get that. I know that there's, as Nick said, you can't, the fact that a couple of goals were scored, you can't figure that the whole game is going to go the way it is because, one was a defensive error, one was just a rocket from well outside the box that you almost never see go in, at least not when I need them. So don't look at over 4.5 and think, oh, plus 162. That's got to be good. They've gotten 2, they'll get more. They could. This game could finish 3-2. We took the over in the Juve game when it was 4.5, and we cashed that one. But those were halftime bets, and we'll definitely get bets to you guys at halftime on this game. But as this game sort of goes and develops, we'll see if anything stands out. Arsenal were playing well before that defensive error, and they're plus 187 now to win. On the pick'em line, you can get them obviously a little bit better. I think the pick'em line is even money at this point. I believe, yes, even money on the pick'em line. The problem is that and there's a hydration break now, so we can talk about it. But the fact that Tottenham have scored, maybe this gives them a little bit of life. If they were down 1-0, and we're heading into the 30-minute mark, then you start to worry about this Tottenham team. But I think that goal has, for no pun intended, spurred them on.
Well played. Again, as soon as Arsenal scored, I just talked about prior to that that if it continued and we started to see an Arsenal number of on the three-way line, the money line coming up at over plus 200, I was gonna, because the run in the field was a little bit in their favor, I was gonna start to say, all right, well, the longer this goes and the more we see from them, that's the side I might look to throw a little money on at 2-1, which is really good value. Now I'm happy that the Tottenham scored in that essence, that maybe that Arsenal line, which is what plus 187 right now, as you said, is going to get closer to that 2-1 number the longer this goes, and maybe that's a bet we wait till for halftime. But when you start to get into numbers over 2-1, it's a not a way to hedge out of anything in the under, but it's a good way to say, okay, well, if the under is going to lose, that means we're going to see at least another goal. Maybe it's going to come from an Arsenal side, and maybe they hang on to win. Whether it's 2-1, 3-1, doesn't matter if it's going over the total. So it's a way to possibly, again, not use the word hedge because it's not a direct bet, but limit your exposure or perhaps get some of the money back on that original under bet. I forget who made that comment, but that's a way to kind of hopefully get some of that money back.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see how this sort of game develops. Just some quick notes, not to do with this game, but anyone, and I think someone mentioned about MLS. It's been a slow start to the MLS. I think I've had like 6 games so far. I've gone 2-4 in the MLS games. It's odd in the sense of the 2 games I've won, the prop bets have also hit, which is the goal scorer in the games. Yesterday was Zardes, and in one of the other games I had the goal scorer as well, who was like plus 160, I believe. It's just the way the games are playing out. Some of them, I expected that Atlanta-New York game to be a higher scoring game, and they get a goal 4 minutes in, and they had numerous chances to score. I didn't see, and I know, Nick, you had a barbecue yesterday, so you probably didn't see what the expected goals for that game were, but it had to be much higher than what the total was at 3. And the TFC game this morning was postponed. What happened was there was an unconfirmed positive test and also a test that was inconclusive. So while the protocols call for the teams to go and play because it's not a confirmed test for either team, DC United did go to the stadium. Toronto stayed at the hotel and refused to play, and the game was postponed. There was talk of rescheduling it to 8 p.m. tonight, but it's uncertain on that whether that'll actually happen or not.
3.3 to 3.4 was the expected goals in that Atlanta match. Just looking.
And the goalie for I can't remember which goalie it was, but the saves in that game were just absolutely insane. It just reminded me of being at the MLS Cup final 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and Frail, I can never pronounce his name, just stood on his head against Toronto, got that game scoreless to penalty kicks, and then Seattle beat Toronto. So sometimes a goalie will do that, sort of like what Pope did yesterday against Liverpool. This guy actually stood on his head yesterday. Unbelievable display of goaltending, and it's why he's got the most clean sheets in the EPL this season.
I'm responding to Abel's comment in the chat where he had the Red Bulls minus a half a goal, which I had them plus a half a goal pre-match. So I'm wondering if he got that. He must have got that live in game because they were the underdogs. They were catching goals.
Yeah, and as Marvin mentions, Atlanta is definitely a different team without Joseph Martinez in there. New York had not lost to Atlanta. I think they in the 6 games. I think they played 6 games. I think 5 of the 6 they had beaten them. Pity Martinez is a very good player, but if he doesn't have the support up front with him, they're just not going to score. They need Martinez back, or they need to get someone in. Atlanta looked they looked like a normal team yesterday. They looked like one of the regulars, a mid-table team. They just did not get the chances. Maybe New York made them look like that, but they definitely They definitely at no point looked like they were ever going to win that game.
Yeah, Martinez is the key to that team. He can score anytime he touches the ball, and without him in the lineup, it changes the fact. I guess the I was going to say the good part, possibly it all depends on when the season was. What he was lost, what after was it the first game or the second game with the ACL? But I don't think there's any chance he comes back before the end of the season. Although you never really know. But with the break and the pause that they had, it was like, well, maybe if the season gets pushed back a little bit longer, as you're seeing, for the Premier League and other leagues in Europe, obviously, it gave chances to guys to come back, like we're seeing Kane and Son, who were both injured prior to the pause, now are back able to play. And they probably, at least Kane probably would not have made it back before the end of the season. So I don't know if that's going to happen with Martinez with an ACL because they're still looking at ending the MLS around the same time. So I don't think we'll still see him back this year, at least not with any time to make a difference for
Yeah,
them in the table.
it's the actual injury at times, and not like when people hear surgery, they believe someone's gone, but it's what the actual injury is that will obviously determine it. Prime example is you look at Man City with Sergio Aguero. I mean, he had the surgery. Uh, they're thinking he'll be back in time for Champions League. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how serious that injury was, but for them to speculate that he'll be back in time for that game at home against Real Madrid, wow, that's such a great goal. I'm watching the replay of that goal by Lacazette. That he helps that side, but they didn't need it yesterday with the 5 goals that they scored.
Right as you started talking there, Tottenham, I'm sure you saw it, had that rocket right off the post, right off the bar.
Yeah, I switched my feed, which is, and I'll switch it back at halftime. But while I can see the live action on Bet365, not the actual game, but the betting action, I'm watching it on the zone, and the zone is about 25 seconds behind. So I'm really in a delay here, as opposed to you guys have it on what, ESPN Plus?
I'm watching it on NBC SN, NBC
Okay.
Sports Network.
David Tabati's joined us. Finna Fink, thanks for joining us. We're going to try and get some in-game wagers through you guys. I'm looking through it, and the game line hasn't really changed. It's still Arsenal 187, Tottenham 175. The draw is 187. So that draw still looks like it's in play, of course. The 3.5 over has gone from 188 down to 138. So much like Nick had mentioned, and there still could be plenty of goals in this game. The first 2 goals were an error defensively, and of course that Lacazette rocket. So we'll have to see if there is no third goal. If there is no third goal by halftime, you'll see that 3.5 drop to even money, and it's not going to go to 2.5. That's not going to happen until this game. If it's still at 1, it's not going to happen normally until you see this game hit the 65 to 70 minute mark.
What do you think of Pepe this year for Arsenal coming over from Lille? I was expecting bigger things from him. I feel like he's in a tough spot where he's got 2 big names around him. But how do you think he's been with the Gunners this season? Because he just had a decent chance that just missed a little wide just a couple minutes ago.
I'm liking him. I think that the problem is with some of these guys is when you put such high expectations, or that you base off the transfer fee, that when the person does not perform at such a high standard, that you start to think that he's a flop, he's a failure. But it's a player that grows within a team. Not everyone is going to be a Bruno Fernandes, coming from Sporting to Man City, where he just makes a noticeable difference right off the bat. They're 2 totally different players. So we're seeing a couple of yellow cards. I think that's the second yellow card to Aurier. The I'm going off on a tangent here, but yellow cards for this game were at 4.5. Didn't take it because I wanted at least another yellow in there. At 5.5, I would have gone straight under for the yellows in this game. Um, so I stayed off of that. But as far as Pepe, give the guy a year. Give Arteta some time to get some players in there, especially at midfield. As far as this goes, because they're going to make some changes. Uh, Guendouzi, I don't believe, and if you're an Arsenal follower, you can correct me, but I don't believe Guendouzi will be part of the team next season. I think they're going to move him and his contract from this team and get somebody else in midfield that can help this team.
I just checked the stats to see. I don't remember seeing this many corners, but it looks like they have 3 right now because we're on, 10.5. Corners to me, sometimes, it's not always indicative, but a lot of times it does provide a quick look at, how is the play on the field and are there chances being created? Because, when you start to see a lot of corners, that teams are getting down towards the goal, they're getting good chances on the ball's just going out of play, obviously. So, again, going back to, the score's 1-1, and the over 2.5 looks good. Obviously, you only need one more goal in the game. I still don't feel like the over is wherever it is right now, or the over even from the beginning was necessarily the play. Again, we had a terrible turnover for a goal, and we had that Lacazette rocket, but that came off of a turnover deep in on the Spurs side of the field already. So both were defensive mistakes. So I still feel like the under is, I don't want to call it the right play, it could easily lose here, but is where it made sense to be on this game just by the play on the field. There's not a lot of offensive chances. There's been a couple, but not a lot going on during this game. So I'm going to be interested to see what this halftime line is going to be on the total and see if there's any reason for us to get involved any further. But I'm still not seeing a lot of chances or a lot of pushing from either team right now.
I agree with you. We will definitely have some plays at halftime that we'll be putting in. We'll also, because I see welcome Ron Walsek to the chat, AJS, doubled AJS there. Welcome to the chat. Again, Marvin Bennett. We will touch on a couple other games, or at least if Nick doesn't have any thoughts, I'll give you some thoughts on some of the Serie A games going later today.
Sure.
There's a big one, Napoli and AC Milan, probably the best one of the day there. And then sort of like a look forward to, or look ahead to other games that might be in play, sort of moving forward. But we definitely want to get some action over to you guys as well. The late game in England today is the Bournemouth Leicester game. There's some games that are going on right now. The Genoa Spal game is 1-0 at halftime. Atletico Bilbao were up 2-0 against Levante in the 46th minute. So there's plenty of action going on. And then we'll touch on some games that we have opinions on, some totals on, and we'll get you some live in-game betting for this Tottenham Spurs game that is even at 1. Is Zekin okay? Yeah, Zekin's fine. We're looking at, he's a Lazio fan. Obviously, that team has dropped off. I had a 5% play in that Lazio game yesterday. Split line of 3.5. Sassuolo had an early goal pulled away. They called it offside, but it looked like it was deflected off of a player. Initially, they gave him the goal. VAR reversed it, which kind of sucked. The game landed on 3, so half of that bet pushed, half of it lost. I expected a lot more in that game. It was such a pedestrian pace in that game. I just couldn't understand it. And that has a lot more to do with Lazio than it did with Sassuolo. Lazio just doesn't have that speed that they seem to have, that pace of moving up the ball. Immobile doesn't look as in form as he did before, so I'm not really sure what's happening with this team moving forward. But they've got a Champions League spot locked up, but I might not feel comfortable betting this team the rest of the season.
Yeah, they we talked about that on Friday's show, and
Yeah,
you're talking about Lazio, right? We talked about that on Friday's show, and I said to myself, and I had a play on them, a regular 3% play on them yesterday. That if there's ever a time they got to get together in their last ditch effort to make a run, that was it. And they got the first goal, but they look like they've looked the last few games, and they've been very disappointing. And it's probably not a team I'm going to be backing anytime soon, unless I mean, listen, you can't base a result of a game off a chance to back
yeah.
a team later, right? This would never happen, but if they're catching 2 goals against somebody coming up, of course you're going to take them because the value is there. But it's definitely a team I'm not going to be looking at to lay anything. I'll say that going forward, because they don't look like the same team that they looked like at the beginning of the season. Now, I will say too, one thing I love to look at, I always talk about during the shows, and Carm knows this, is results and goal differentials don't always tell the true story of what's going on with the team, because soccer, low scoring, luck plays a big factor into it. And Lazio was, I want to say, the number one, it might have been number two, most overperforming team in Serie A this season as far as their expected goals for and expected goals allowed. So the metrics behind the results, I'm not saying they're as bad as they look right now, but they were definitely overperforming where they stood in the table. And they should be probably down to number 4, maybe even number 5, based on expected points. So I'm not surprised to see the regression happening with them. But I still do think they are better than they've been playing.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. But this is one of the things that we and we're always trying to take as much information as we can, both in doing what we do and in putting plays out for you guys, but also obviously in betting them, because any play I put out, I bet. So if I'm not betting it, I'm not putting it out. So you got to look at it, and you can understand how a guy like, let's say from Lazio, an Immobile, who is their main scorer on that team, how he could not be. I'm not saying off form, but the wear and tear of these games get to him, because you're not playing a game every week. You look at the Lazio games that they've played so far. They played on the 24th of June. 3 days later, they play on the 27th. 3 days after that, they're playing on the 30th. Then the 4th, and the 7th, and the 10th. They're essentially playing within a what is that? Less than 3 week period. 17 days. They've played 6 games. It stands to reason that, and you're playing them in June and July, when the league is normally over. In May Serie A ends. These guys are playing in that heat. Cooling break or not, it's getting to these guys, and it's something that we have to look at sort of moving forward. It definitely affects. So you don't see those runs like you normally see, where a guy runs 11 kilometers in a game, or 11 miles in a game, covering the field. You're just not seeing that right now with some teams, and Lazio's one of the teams I think are suffering from this.
Serie A has been, I think, the funnest, I know that's not a word, the most fun league of any of the major ones to come back since the break. I mean, they're scoring goals in that league like I've never seen before in Serie A. I know you followed it for a long time, Carmen. Do you ever recall a time where you're seeing as many goals going in that league as we are right now?
I don't, because I think the mentality is changing finally in that league. The joke used to be, like even for the Italian national team, score a goal and then just sit back and absorb the pressure for 80 minutes and try and win 1-0. Teams are scoring, with more imports coming in. Teams are trying to stay in the league. It's similar to any of the other leagues, which if you're looking for big TV contracts or big transfer fees, you need players that are not just good defensively if they're midfielders or they play on the back line, but that can score goals. It's just the way it is right now, and the mentality has changed. You're seeing it with this Atalanta team. Like, Um, this team is so much fun to watch. I would love to see them. This is a one-off game that they have to play against PSG, and it's being played in Portugal. And you know, Paris Saint-Germain will have been 5 months since they played a game, I believe, when they play that game. And yeah,
Yep.
I know they have a couple cup games in France that they have to play. It's still not the same. Friendlies are still not the same. Getting these guys, um, playing against the team. Atalanta's going to go to into that game the same way they went into yesterday's game, thinking we're better than our opposition. We're going to try and score goals. We're not going to sit back. Sometimes they lose 4-2 games, and sometimes they win 6-0 games playing that style. So I'm looking forward to that game against PSG, definitely.
Yeah, I think you got to put a major disadvantage to PSG and Lyon. I mean, I know Lyon's up 1-0 on your Juve, but not playing for so long. I think we've seen it in all the leagues. I mean, if you guys have been watching any of these leagues come back, you're seeing it right now in Major League Soccer because that's the newest one. I mean, these teams are definitely not sharp. They're coming out. They're slow. They're not crisp. Their timing's a little off. Their passes are a little off. And we're seeing unders throughout the roof in the MLS right now. We saw it early with the Premier League. The same thing was happening. It takes a couple games to get full speed timing with your teammates and where you are on the field to really get back into the rhythm. So I think they're at a major disadvantage, the two France teams coming back to the Champions League. So, well, I mean, who knows? Anything can happen in just one 90-minute game. I think over two legs, that would definitely be a factor. But one 90-minute game, anything could happen, and one random goal can go in, and they can move on. But I think they're at a disadvantage overall, and I'll be looking. I think Juve is one team we talked about already. I know they're down 0-1, but I like them to advance. We looked at that. What was that, minus 125?
Yeah,
I think you said. So I already as it stands, just for that reason alone.
They're 175 to win the game on the three-way line. But I believe that if it, absent of the fact that, let's say, they were to win the game 2-1, obviously at 2-1 they don't advance because of the away goals rule. But my point, I think, was that if you're going to take Juve to win the game, or you figure they're going to win the game against Lyon, you might as well take the Juve to advance at minus 125. The only way that Juve win the game and you don't cash on that ticket is if Juve win by any score line, win by a goal that's anything other than 1-0. If it's 2-1, 3-2, or what have you, the away goals rule comes in and Juve is eliminated. I just don't know. With these no fans, you have to figure U of A is going to win, but I haven't looked at it yet. It's not something I'm going to bet now, and the only reason is there's still, 6 Serie A games between now and then, and you just don't know if anyone's going to get injured between now and then. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but it's not something I would want to obviously bet. Quickly, guys, thanks for joining again. Halftime in the game. That 3.5 is now shaded to the under at minus 125. The 2.5 that was over, the juice was 900 on it. If you wanted to take the over 2.5, is down to 450 now. So as you see, like Nick brought to everyone's attention, one defensive error, one Lacazette monster strike. You can't look at a couple goals and think that they're just going to come bucketfuls. It's slowed down to the pace that we thought it would be.
Yep. I think. I like the under for the total game at 3.5. I could see one more goal coming in and somebody, getting a win here, or I could see it still ending 1-1. I mean, the chances. If you look at either side, I think Arsenal's had the better chances. There was a couple there late in the second half, last 10 minutes or so. Pepe had another one, and there was one off of a free kick that were both decent. But I think they've had the better chances of the two sides, and I just don't see much either way, though, as far as offense goes. So I'm actually liking the under 3.5 for the game. I don't see 2 goals coming in the first half. Listen, if we didn't have those defensive mistakes in the first half, it'd be 0-0 right now, and we'd be talking all about maybe it's time to look at over 1.5 for the second half and get out of our underplay and perhaps middle it and win both. But I don't know. Nothing on the field so far has changed my opinion on the fact that I still think this is an under
Yeah.
game
No,
all the way through.
I definitely agree with you on that. We had one of our bets was on Tottenham on a pick 'em on the 2A line. That one has pushed. Um, so we don't have to worry about that one. That one's pushed for us. We have a draw in the game, a 1-1 draw in the game. That uh, obviously is 1-1 right now. But the funny thing is that they're actually offering us on the 1-1 draw more than what our wager was. They're offering us about a 5% profit on our bet. So yeah, you
Cash
can
out right now?
actually no. They're offering us. What are they offering us? They're offering us a 25% profit on our bet to cash out right now at Bet365. The yeah,
No
the
shit.
under 10.5 corners. They're offering us a 25% profit to cash out on the under 10.5 totals. Um, will there be a penalty in the game? That there is no cash out offer on that. We're getting 2-1 odds on that. And the under 2.5, they are not offering us a profit on that. They're offering us 25% of our initial wager on that one. So we've pushed on one of the wagers. Where they're offering us a profit on two of our wagers. One is off the board currently, and one the under 2.5. If we can get it to the 60-minute mark, we actually could cash that out at full value. So something to look at. All right,
I
in-game
think
wagers,
it's
Nick. You want to have a look at the lines and see if anything stands out for you.
yep.
And while you're doing that, I will talk about a couple games coming up in Italy. Serie A, a couple of games to look at. The Genoa game is now starting the second half. They're in the 58th minute. Sorry, 48th minute. It's still 1-0. In-game price on that is minus 550 on Genoa. I wouldn't want to take that. I wouldn't even want to take the next team to score. I have no feel on that game right now. I do have Genoa as one of my plays, laying a split line of minus a half, -1. So I'll continue to monitor that game. Uh, under the category of fishy games, guys. I don't know about this game. I don't know why. The Cagliari Lecce game, that line has continued to come down. You know, Lecce are making sort of that run to stay in the league right now. They currently sit at looking at sort of the standings right now. They are 2 points behind Genoa in the live standings because Genoa are picking up 3 points right now with this, being ahead. But Lecce picked up that big 2-1 win at home against Lazio. They go to Cagliari, who their last three games haven't been the best games. A 1-1 draw against Bologna. They lost 1-0 at home to Atalanta, and they drew at Fiorentina 0-0. This is a game where that price has been coming down. Cagliari went from 158 earlier in the week to late in the week 138 to now they're minus 110. So there's definitely action coming in on Lecce, and it's a game that doesn't mean much to Cagliari, but means a hell of a lot to Lecce here. So if you've got the wherewithal to want to take this game, you could get plus 260 on them if you think they're going to win. Or you can take the double result at minus 125, and a win or a draw by Lecce gets you the money in this. Nick, anything you're seeing before I come back to Serie A in the Tottenham game?
I see the under 3.5 is at minus 110 now. You said it was at minus
Yes.
125 when you first looked. So it's at minus 110, which I like. And then you have the full game line pretty much hasn't changed. It's a dead even 187 on this is Bet365 187 both ways. So they got that priced evenly. And then there's like third goal, but I don't necessarily want to look at that one. I'm just looking at the under again. I think there's value. I know there was a lot of. I was looking at the feed. I think there's a lot of guys
Yeah.
that were on the over. So this is a good opportunity for those people on the over 2.5 to possibly go under 3.5, middle it, win both, but at least if that third goal never comes, you're going to get out of
Yeah.
that over 2.5 line, or on the opposite side of that, you don't necessarily have to go the full amount. And it's a possible chance that you can middle and win both bets, because it seems to me right now that one more goal in this game is probably going to be the winner. I feel like, again, these defensive errors that caused the first two goals hopefully are cleaned up, and I don't see a lot of goals coming here in the second half. So personally, I
Yep.
like the under 3.5 part.
I put that wager in for us, so we now have under 3.5 as one of our official wagers. Looking at our corners, we did have corners. I know it's a prop bet. We did have under 10.5. There's 4 corners so far. The current number is now in game is 9.5. That is shaded to the under in juice. This is another one of those ones that once the game gets underway again, and the 9.5 becomes, let's say, 8.5, I will take the over on that if it is even money or plus money, and set up a middle opportunity where if the game ends with 9 or 10 corners, we win both bets. But at the very least, we get out of our bet. So no matter whether it goes over or under, we've gotten out of the bet and we have a chance to win both. So that's an opportunity that we have. Looking at final scores, we had 1-1 at plus 600. 1-1 is now in game plus 350. The next lowest scores are 2-1 for either side at plus 400. And a 2-2 result is the next lowest at plus 500. So we're not going to take any of those because we have the 1-1, but we will continue to look at these. If you figure there's going to be no third goal in this game, you can get plus 350 on your money, Nick.
I see that. That goes back to our original one. No third goal plus 350. It goes back to our original under bet. Now, interesting on the correct scores, you wanted to take both Tottenham and Arsenal each 2-1 final score, and I talked you out of it. So I think either one of those are very likely to happen. And that talked you out of some money there. But I'm still holding on to this 1-1. I think we can win it. I think we can do it.
When Nick and I discussed during the weekend, I'll never put the wagers in when I'm looking at them the first time. I'll jot them down and then I'll go back and sort of look at news and get a feel for the game. And sometimes I will change my mind. And this is one of the ones where I won't say Nick changed my mind, but I did end up changing my mind on this because I started to lean to the under. But the 2-1 score lines for each team was 10-1 plus 1,000. The other bet that which we would have won on, which I kind of wish I had taken, but again, once you lean to under, you can't really take these bets, is Arsenal to score in the first half were even money plus 100. Tottenham to score in the first half were even money plus 100. My thought on taking both was that if there was a goal in the first half, that you couldn't lose money. The worst you could do is break even. So it's something that I thought about, didn't put in, but hindsight is what is it? Hindsight's 2020. What's the saying?
Hindsight is 2020, and you nailed them both. And yep, I think I talked you out of those ones too.
It's all good. We're gonna get some other wagers going to you guys. A couple of the other games that are going on in Italy to sort of look at. I kind of like Fiorentina against Verona. Fiorentina has been playing well. As I'm talking about Fiorentina, Genoa has gotten a second goal, so that's great on them. It's 2-0 Genoa. I kind of like Fiorentina in this game. Verona has been playing, somewhat well since the restart. These teams pretty much have the same record over the last 5 games. 1 win, 2 draws, 2 losses. Fiorentina, I believe, are safe at 35 points. Verona is definitely safe at 43. Probably have an outside thought of Europa in that 6th spot, but I don't see that happening. They have to leapfrog over Sassuolo, leapfrog over AC Milan, who are chasing that 6th spot, and then get by Napoli at 51. So at 8 points back, I think they're in that spot where they're playing out their season. Um, it's too early to say they're shutting it down. There's still 7 games left, but uh, Fiorentina for me are one of those teams that uh, they tend to play well year in and year out at home. But the funny thing is that through 16 games this season, they have 7 draws at home, 6 losses, only 3 wins. Um, they are one of those teams that's tough to figure out. They've played well on the road this year, and then at home sort of give it up, for lack of a better word. But they 3 draws in their last 4 at home, and I just like the way they played against Cagliari, even though they did not get a result. They drew in that game. Plus 105, I think, is worth a bet here on this side.
Yeah, I have. I was just looking at the lines for the other games. Parma is a team that has completely overperformed expectations on their expected goals number this year, and Bologna is a completely lopsided, underperforming team. So you got a pick 'em line in that game. Bologna is definitely the better team as far as the underlying metrics go this year. So I think that's a good line on Bologna. Actually, as the away team, I think they've been much better this year, even though the records doesn't really show that. Their play and their expected goals is showing that they're supposed to be 15 points clear of Parma in the table, which is pretty significant because right now they are, I think it's really close, right? They are 2 points clear of Parma. Their expected goal tally has them 15 points clear, which is significant. Just Parma has really been overperforming their metrics. Napoli, AC Milan, that's a tough one for me. AC Milan, I do like the quarter of a goal catch in there. They've been playing very, very, very well, but Napoli tends to screw me often. But I can't hold that in any play. I won't use that. I refuse to let any biases come into play. So I do like AC Milan catching any goals right now because they're not losing.
Well,
So
this
I
is
think
where
they're a
I'm
good
going to
bet as
go
well.
against you on this one, but this is the great thing about this show is that you won't agree with 100% of my bets, and vice versa. This is why the show
Correct.
works. I am going to take Napoli to beat AC Milan 2-1 exact score. So we'll put that in the chat. 2-1
Nice.
exact score at plus 800. So you're getting 8-1 on your money for Napoli to win at home against AC Milan. Maybe as far as as Milan goes, they got that win over Juve. Maybe a little hangover as they hit the road. They have been playing well, but this Napoli team, other than running into the juggernaut that is Atalanta, they have been playing extremely well since coming back. They had the two the 2 games where the Coppa Italia games where they drew at home against Inter. They beat Juventus in the cup final, but then since then, 2-0 over Verona, 3-1 over Spal. They played that 2-0 game where they lost to Atalanta, but then they beat Roma 2-1. They beat Genoa 2-1. That 2-1 game, they seem to love it. You go farther back, and a lot of their games keep ending 2-1 against Torino, against Brescia. So,
Yep.
this is one of those ones where, they're playing very well right now as a team. Gennaro Gattuso's got this team playing the way he wants them to play, and it bodes well for them moving forward. They're not going to get into a Champions League spot, but they have still to play, finish out this season, and get one of those European spots, which I believe they will. And then they've got the big game, and it's setting your team up for that big game. And that big game is at Camp Nou, Champions League against Barcelona. They're even at 1, so Barcelona got the away goal, the important away goal. So they're going to have to go there and beat Barcelona, or any draw that's 1-1 or higher. 1-1 gets them to extra time. Any draw higher than 1-1 gets them into the next round against Bayern Munich.
Yep. And that's I hate to say it, but whoever goes on to the next round, they're not getting past Bayern. And that's coming from a
Yeah.
Dortmund fan. Just
Well,
saying.
you know, the Champions League aspirations for my team were that I support were quickly went from excited to see Champions League to no longer excited to see Champions League. Juve, you know, if they get by Lyon, have to play the winner of Man City, Real Madrid, which is those two teams are just playing lights out right now, and even if they somehow found a way to get by one of those two teams, who's waiting for you? Bayern Munich or Barcelona. It's just like, all right, let me look forward to like next year's draw for group stages because it just doesn't look good. So second half is now underway. We're going to monitor these lines because, as you know, a lot of this uh, now that we're in the second half, these totals are going to be affected greatly by this. So we're on obviously on the under. I've got the game on now, and um, I'm on a bit of a delay. So Nick, you're probably going to be a little ahead of me, so you'll have to let me know what is happening here. One Time Sports is looking for a Tottenham goal ASAP. So I'm not sure if he's on over 3.5 or if he's on Tottenham team total.
Yeah, I'm not sure there either. Probably, I think there was a lot of people on the over 2.5 in the game. So, but he's specifically rooting for Tottenham. There must be something he's got on the side as
He
well.
could be a Spurs fan. So
That's true too. That's true too. I'm waiting to see what happens here in the first 10, 15, but I still believe that the side, if we're going to choose any side, I'd like to get down on is Arsenal. I still think I've seen more from them in this game. Somebody mentioned Arsenal's plus 190. AJs and AJs mentioned that. And I said I was looking to get greedy and maybe try to get that up to closer to like 220 or so,
yeah,
230 maybe, which probably 15 minutes from now we could get. Although you could also really be safe and just take them on the two-way line, which I actually haven't looked. I don't know. That's
both
probably got to be
275 on the double chance line, and which I can understand. I can understand.
well, on the. But what are they on? The pick'em line's got to be pretty even, right?
I'm looking at the pick'em line right now just to get out to you guys where we are on the Asian line. The pick'em line,
Yes.
yeah, is if you're into decimal points, 0.193. So that's probably about minus 104, minus
I
105,
think.
somewhere around there.
Yeah, they're both dead even there. So it's call it a minus 110 bet or minus 105 bet for both sides.
So if you want to, Arsenal is now plus 200 on
Okay.
so shall we get?
Let's wait a little bit. I want to see a few more minutes. I want to make sure they're the team with the pressure here. And I'm getting greedy, but I think we can get, I don't know, 220, 230, somewhere in that neighborhood. I definitely wanted to get 200, but I don't know. What's your feel? I think I'm good with waiting a few more minutes. I think we can get a little bit better price.
We can. Obviously, my feed is a little behind, but as I see, you know, I mean, like with the attacks and stuff and corners. The corners are still at like 9, even with this corner. The Asian corners on this is at 9. The under 3.5 is now minus 150. So that the over 2.5 line at some point is going to pop back on the screen as the and move from the alternate match goals to the actual match goals, and you'll see the over 2.5. When it's shaded to the over at probably like minus 160, minus 170, and then if this game again continues to remain scoreless, that under 2.5 will start to drop again. So it's something that we have to watch. But it's definitely the under 3.5, which we did take, is at 163 now on the under. So 163.
Is it really
under, so.
fast? 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, move that much. I think it was very telling when you said that we were offered a cash out profit option at 1-1 at halftime. I think that's very telling for what where the money is being dictated on this game, as far as not many more goals, if any goals, are either the money's coming in there, or the bookies were setting the line there for a different reason. But it was very telling to me that they were offering us a profit
Yeah.
at that 1-1 number. I don't know if we should have taken it, to be honest.
Yeah, no,
I like it.
I get it.
I haven't seen.
I'm all for it. So, just to answer a quick question, AYO Faisal asks us about the Leicester Bournemouth game. It's tough to take um, Bournemouth at all where they are right now. Obviously, at 28 points, and they did get a draw against the Spurs, but they should have actually lost that game. As the league did admit that they got VAR wrong and a penalty should have been awarded to them. So, had that happened, you know what I mean? I know it's all what ifs. This would be a team now that would have lost all 5 games since the restart. You look at their score lines: 2-0, 1-0, 4-1, 5-2, and then that scoreless draw where they did pick up the point. The only thing is, Leicester haven't looked convincing at all either, other than that 3-0 win against Palace. They had lost 2-1 to Everton, 1-0 to Chelsea. They had drawn at home against Brighton, and they should have lost the game against Arsenal. I hate to say it, and they did not play well against Arsenal, and got that goal being 10v11. You look at their numbers in the first half of that game. 4 attempts on goal, only 2 shots on goal. Obviously, more in the second half when they went up a man, but they still only had 6 shots on goal with all that pressure that they have. I'm not Lane. I don't know about you, Nick, but I don't want to lay a price with Leicester right now.
No, I actually had them plus a quarter of a goal in that Arsenal game. At first half and halftime, I pretty much wrote that off as a loser. And thank God that red card came in the second half, because you're right, Arsenal was dominating that game and controlling them, and Leicester hasn't really looked great in any of the games, that they've been back playing. So not a team. That's a match I completely avoided altogether. Again, one similar to just a game where it's like I can't justify one team or the other. It wasn't that I could make, like this game, I can make arguments for either side, Tottenham and Arsenal. That game, all I could do was make arguments against either side. And I can never really get my money on a team that I have more cons than I do pros. Even if I'm on both sides on some games, or at least it's something I'm still interested in, because I'm happy or positive about one team. But when I'm negative about both sides in almost every aspect,
it's
hard to get your money
on. For you guys that are watching right now, and we talked about, and we took under 3.5 as one of our plays. You look at it right now, and if you're not happy about your under 3.5, you can literally hedge it out and lock in a profit. The over 3.5 right now is plus 175. The under is minus 225. The 2.5 has come down. If you remember, 2.5 over was minus 900. It's only minus 275 right now. Of course, any goal kills the under 2.5, but the 3.5 is the one that we're focused in on right now, because right now they're going to need a couple goals to beat that. And if this over 3.5 becomes, what do you say, Nick? Plus 250, we can actually cash that wager out for a profit.
Yeah. Yep. Arsenal, couple chances there. Well, not chances, but decent pressure on that side, which is good to see. I still like that side. So a few more minutes, maybe get to the 60-minute window. We'll see what the price is at. I'm imagining it's what do you see now? Plus 210
plus 220,
in that neighborhood.
Tottenham is plus 225. Right. The draw is plus 125. So, apologies to the guys in the chat. There's not a lot of wagers coming out on this show like we normally would, but it's also one of those things where it's sort of the game dictates that we have to find something much like the 3.5 that offers value to give it to you guys. If we start to get a good enough price on Arsenal, we likely will take them. let's remember here, Arsenal probably should be up 1-0 if not for that defensive miscue. So it's one of those things where um, the game is in the balance. This could go either way. So I'm not saying Arsenal's going to win this game. I'm not saying Tottenham's going to win this game. It's one of those ones where we're just going to have to watch the next few minutes. I will get some other bets out for you in other games that we like to sort of fill the gap on how many wagers we get on this show. 4 yellow cards so far in this game. The total for yellow cards was 5.5, or sorry, 4.5 on this game. So there's 4 right now. So if you either took under or over, we didn't. The next yellow is either going to make you happy or piss you off.
Yeah, I'd rather have one winning bet on a game than 5, 6 force bets in there that, I guess ultimately could win, but there's a very good chance that you end up going 3-3 or something like that, or 2-3 or whatever, and you're, pissed off at yourself for forcing something that you just couldn't really truly get behind. And that's kind of where we are now. The under, again, I stand by my original position. I think that was the play in this game. We got a couple quick fluke goals, I'm going to call them, and I still like our position even now. I mean, more so now that we took the under 3.5 live, but honestly, I still think there's a decent chance that we can continue to cash this 2.5 ticket. So I'm going to hope for the best. There's still a lot of soccer left, and anything can happen. One more. It seems like the goal will come from another defensive mistake because the teams aren't really generating a lot. Of the two, I still think Arsenal's been the better side, so I'm looking to maybe throw something. And I don't think it's worth a full wager, but maybe a few bucks on the Arsenal side here as we get.
This is one of the times. I've talked about this on Twitter and my friends. When I'll get text messages or a WhatsApp from my friends up here north of Toronto that will on Friday night they'll be like, okay, so what do we have going action wise for Saturday? And they'll ask me my wagers, and if I have an under or two, they're like, how can you watch a game when you have an under? And my answer to that is I don't. I don't watch the game. Here's my thoughts on an under when I bet an under. If it's an 11 o'clock game at 11:47, 11:48, it should be at halftime or in injury time, I will check the score. And then if that is going well, I'll check it 30 minutes later, which is 15 minutes into the second half, at the 60-minute mark, probably about 15, 20 minutes after that. And if it looks like it's got a shot to win, I turn on the game and watch it. I just can't watch it. And NFL, I bet a lot of NFL unders sometimes early in the season, and I just can't watch the games. How do you watch a game where you're like, I don't want anything to happen? Just stay at mid.
Yeah. Unders are the best bet. Oh, off the crossbar. Arsenal.
Yeah,
another really good chance.
You are about 7 seconds in front of me, so I saw that. I got to look down at my screen as you said that. So
we got it's the box coming here too, I think.
Yeah, we've got a free kick outside the box. Is that a yellow on Lucas or no? I don't see a yellow.
What's the two-way? Oh man, that was close. That was a good hit. What's the two-way line for?
It's plus 200 right now is for on the three-way line, and on the
dropped a little bit.
Asian handicap, the Arsenal on the two-way line is actually lower. It's at minus 176, 1.76, which is think about minus 130, 135. So I have my converter. So let's. So guys who are asking, the difference between decimal line and thing, minus 176 is minus 132. 1.76 decimal, which is what they use in the UK, is minus 132 for Americans. So that's what you'd have to lay on Arsenal on the two-way pick'em line right now for this game. But if you look at it, the 3.5 is off of the board and is now an alternate match line, The actual game line now is 2.5 again, and minus 175 to the over, plus 137 to the under. So it's what we expected as far as that line goes. The over 3.5 is plus 275 right now, Nick.
We got definitely got in on the right side of the second or the total game line at the live 3.5. So I'm still feeling really good about it. I don't think there's any reason to change our position there. The greediness in me a little bit, but I think the play on the field dictates if another goal is coming in this game, it's going to come from the Gunner side. So I like their 3.5 position. We have a small wager, right, on the 2.5 position.
Yes, we do. Yeah, a small one. Our bigger wager is on all of our wagers in game are going to be bigger than the pregame ones. The pregame ones were almost like prop type wagers money wise. So under 3.5 is our biggest wager that we have right now. And as you guys know, as we do these shows, this is the third of in the series of these in-game wagers. The money that we profit through the first 4 shows, which will be at the end of next weekend, I'm sending to Vegas to Minty Bets and to Kelly, and it's for a dog rescue in Vegas. So that money is going to be donated to a dog rescue shelter in Vegas, which I think is a very good cause because for you pet lovers out there. Then the next series of live wagering shows, which will finish off I think the season for us. It is going to go to the fantastic customer service department, customer relations department, I should say, that we have at WagerTalk, our Detroit office. Missy, Melissa, Johnny, Chris, who helped set up this show for us to make sure that we can go live. We need Nick to kick ass for 4 weeks, make a ton of money, and then we're sending it over. I will send it to our crew in Detroit so they can either all head out for one hell of a dinner on us with drinks.
If it was for myself, I'd say I can't promise it, but knowing it's for them, we're going to win some money for them.
Good stuff.
Absolutely.
A Champions League live wagering show would be great. We'll see what we can pull off. But and then I know one of the tougher ones is I talked to Andrew McInnes about this. What would be to do an NHL live betting playoff one? Going to be a little tougher, faster paced game. Lines move a lot quicker, but maybe Andrew will want to take on that project when the playoffs start August 1st.
If I know him,
yeah, the man. He's a workaholic. He loves this business. He knows his stuff. He does commentating on the East Coast in Canada for university basketball games, I believe. So he does enjoy that stuff. All right, Nick, let's look at these in-game wagering, boys. The 250 on Arsenal, if you think they can close it out in the next 26 minutes of the game. The over 2.5 is down to 163. Now in this game, the more important bet, which for us is the under 3.5. It is at the over is at plus 333. We've got the under, so we're standing firm on that one as far as that goes. But Nick, I'm going to leave this call to you on whether you want to take Arsenal on the 3-way line at plus 250, or you want to take them on the 2-way line, which is it is 1.79 now, which is minus 127. So obviously what happens on that is if you take that, if the game ends in a draw, it pushes. If Arsenal wins, we will win that bet. Tottenham scores, and obviously we lose that bet.
So that line you just threw out tells me the money in the live game is on Arsenal, because we were looking at them as -105, -110 about 15 minutes ago. So now
Yeah,
it's
and
at
if you're
minus
watching the
127.
game, Arsenal seems to be carrying much of the game. I see they're making a substitution now. They're bringing in some more speed on their wings in Saka, the youngster. So he's coming in right now, get a little more speed. If you're looking at the three-way line, Tottenham's 333. The draw is -120. Arsenal's +250. So Nick, make the call.
I think small, only to hedge the under 2.5 wager on Arsenal 250. I think it's a great payout. I think for 25 more minutes left in this game, I think there's a good chance they could pull a winner here. They're the better side, and they're generating the offense, especially more so in the second half. I haven't seen
Okay,
anything out of Tottenham.
We are in. Sorry to cut you off there. We are in at +260 on Arsenal on the three-way line. Um, with the thought, like Nick said, that if a goal comes, you know what I mean, unless it's really against the run of play, it's likely going to come from Arsenal. So cashing that bet would negate any losses on the under 2.5. All right. Let's see. Anything else happening? The Genoa game is in the 82nd minute. Nick, you're still there, right? All right. I just wanted to make sure
Yes.
our video didn't freeze. Genoa game is 2-0 in the 82nd minute. Um, we talked about uh, the Leicester game. Don't really want to take that game. That game goes in about just a little over an hour. The game that starts in about 30 minutes, which is the Cagliari Lecce game. Um, you know, One thing I sort of want to got into that. I had placed a pre-match wager on the over in that game. I did take the over 3 in that game. I'm just looking at some possible wagers if you guys are looking for some first half action. The first half total in that game is 1.25, and the juice on that is -103. So that's something that you might want to look at. The fact that I like the over 3 tells you that I believe there's going to be some goals in this Cagliari Lecce game. So over 3 for me in that game already, and it's a hydration break in the Arsenal game. And as I said, I'll likely take, if there was a -1 in that game, I would have taken it. But with a total of 3, you're never going to find a -1 or a 1 total. It's going to always be 1.5 or 1.25. So I'm going to take the 1.25 in that game, not as a one for our show, but to let the chat know that I do like that play.
Somebody asked anybody good at the Turkish league? No. Every now and then I'll play something there, but I'm not good at it by any means. I'm not well versed in that one too much. More so when those teams play in like the Europa or something like that, I'll be on the games. But every now and then I'll see something. I think we had one we were both on last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, Carm. But I think you're kind of on the same boat with Turkish league. We're not usually doing a lot in that league.
Yeah, no, and Daniel Chill Gaiman, he talks about it, and there's nothing. Well, yeah, there's something wrong with being -18 ROI, but I don't even want to look at what my ROI might be in the Turkish league because, it's just one of those ones where sometimes if it's just not going well, and I don't see an upturn in this. Is there something happening in this game? It looks like there's something. No, the odds came off for a second there, so I thought there might have been some action in this game. Even if you readjust the way you bet the Turkish league and it's still not going your way, you just have to drop it. And I did. I see some of the teams they're just, some of the form hasn't been the greatest. Yeah, that's probably why the line had come off. It looked like something that where they could have scored there.
That's Robert S. right there. He said Arsenal control the game until one defensive
Yeah,
error.
and
So
and
that
this is
means when
Arsenal.
it
This is
hit, you should.
Arsenal. So you can't discount that defensive error happening again. So it's one of those.
Yep.
It's one of those ones where you just again we don't know. Again, Arsenal had a majority of the play in the 25 minutes since the restart of this second half, and it just goes to show you Tottenham against the run of play almost scored to take the lead. So it's as the one-time specialty. The Arsenal specialty, one time sports says. You just never know with these teams. I
Very,
miss
very,
the
very
fans.
true.
If you go to YouTube and you Google Tottenham Arsenal fan chants, the stuff that these guys spew at games when there are fans is just absolutely fantastic. It's one of the more enjoyable fixtures to watch as an outsider. If you don't support either one of these teams, just to see how they go at each other.
Yeah, any of these derby games, um, and this one especially, but any of these derby games, it's the crowd. Without the crowd, it just changes the whole dynamic of the game. Because we talk about it often. You could have teams on opposite side of the tables, opposite side of the form, and you can basically throw it all out of the window in these derby type of matches because they just come to play. The history between the teams is there. The fans are just going through the roof. But without them in the stands, we've seen a lot of the derby games just not look like the typical derby games, and this is in all the leagues. It's not just here in the Premier League, but it definitely takes away. I mean, the whole point of the derby is to get the inner city rivalry, get all the fans on one side versus the other chirping in each other's ear, and without it happening in the game, it just takes away a lot more than I think a regular game does as far as I don't know, the competitiveness of the game or the excitement to the
Yeah, no,
game for sure.
definitely. One quick note. I know there was a guy in the first half that was wondering how am I gonna should I hedge out my under 2.5 now, and you couldn't because the over was minus 900. Well, the over 2.5 right now is plus 105. So and the under pregame was minus 210. So or sorry minus 110. So if you really wanted to hedge it out right now, you could hedge it out and lose a couple dollars probably, depending on your bet sizing. Um, the over 2.5, if there's no goal in the next 5 minutes, that is going to be at about plus 130, plus 140. So those are options if you feel uncomfortable about the last 15 minutes of the game that you can get out of your bet.
Yeah, in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game are they can drive you crazy and lose you a lot of
Yeah.
hair. Right,
Yes,
Carm?
I
Uh,
last season before the start of the EPL, I had a full head of hair, guys. Yeah,
one
that's
season,
all it
that's all it
took.
took.
I look.
Yeah, well, I was bitching at you through not bitching at you, but bitching to you about the Portugal game the other 3 days ago, where it was 1-0 going into stoppage
Oh,
time. I had the under
the
2.5, and this
Guimarães
was
game. Yeah.
yeah, Guimarães game. They were up 1-0. All right, so then Gil Vicente scored a goal at the 90 plus third to go 1-1. I'm still like, all right, well, whatever. Then at the 90 plus 10, they scored another one to win the freaking game, crush my bet, and it's just you never know at the last minute of these games, and sometimes it's like you wonder. I didn't see like the MLS game where there was an injury for 7 minutes and that one went to 10 minutes. You very rarely see 10 minutes, so I didn't see why there was 10 minutes of stoppage time on there. But sometimes I always ask myself or find myself asking myself that why is this game going so long? Why is the ref, they throw up a number early and it might not be that much. Why is this ref letting it go a minute, 2 minutes past the original stoppage time? And I don't know what happened in that game. I'm not saying anything did happen in the game, but at the end I was scratching my head going, that ref
Yeah,
was on
I
to
know.
be
We,
over.
we always seem to think about it. Listen, I talked about um, the Europa game of not this year, but I think it was last year. Estonia. I had under 2.5 in their game, the Europa League game, and it's 0-0 in the 90th, and then they put up that little digital sign with 6 or 7 minutes of extra time, and Estonia scores a goal, and it's 1-0. 3 minutes later, Estonia scores a second goal, and now it's the 96th minute, and the ref does not blow the whistle. He lets it run to the 8th minute of injury time, and they get a third goal, and it finishes 3-0. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. I had under 2.5, and they score 3 goals in stoppage time to kill my wager, and it's just
that,
yeah.
that's even worse. That's brutal. I would be crying.
Abel's like goal on a
I
penalty
would be
kick
crying.
in this Arsenal game. Only if the goal if the penalty is awarded to Arsenal, because if it's and as the last kick of the game, so my under 3.5 wins, our penalty kick awarded wins, and Arsenal plus 260 wins. That's the only way it works.
The only way it works. Plus 90, the 90 plus fourth minute,
Over
right
two and a
before the
half is
whistle.
now plus 120. The under is minus.
Okay.
The under is minus 150 on this game, so that's being offered. Nick, I'm going to throw some offers that we're getting right now, as far as our cash outs.
Cash outs?
The under 3.5, they're giving us almost an 80% guaranteed profit. The draw,
Okay.
they're offering us essentially from our 6-1 odds. They're offering us, if I had to guess it, they're offering us plus 280 on our money on the 1-1 draw if
Okay.
we wanted to take it now. So
Uh, that's an interesting one to me because we have a plus 250 play on Arsenal to score, which would kill the 1-1. So we could essentially free run that bet plus the
Yeah.
under 2.5 if we
Yeah.
cash that one,
the
right?
under 10.5 corner kicks, they are offering us almost the full value cash out right now. So we might as well
Okay.
ride that out. There's only 6 corners so far, and they're offering us almost the full value. Or we could take it and cash out and lose a couple bucks, but it's definitely a profit there. And they're offering us a profit now on under 2.5, whereas before they're only offering us
Are
20.
okay. Well, it's a
Yeah.
small profit, sure,
Yeah.
not major. I'm the one I'm interested in is the 1-1 cash out, just because it's close to 3-1 money and it covers a lot of the other bets in case something happens here in the last
So
few minutes.
should we cash out our under?
I don't know. I don't want to. I want you to be comfortable with it
The
too.
under
Where is it
2.5?
at right now?
Oh,
No, the 1-1.
1-1 score line is, let's have a look here. They're offering us, they're offering us a 3-1 profit on our money.
Pretty good profit to guarantee and not worry about these last 15 minutes where
All right.
anything can happen like that. Almost.
Yeah,
oh,
we can
Jesus.
always brag that we had it. So I am going to book it. Here we go.
Yeah.
We are confirming and cashing out the 1-1 draw. So that one is now cashed out and in the books as a profit.
3-1. All right. So now we got our under 2.5 covered, right? And we got our Arsenal. So we can hope for the Arsenal win and get even more on that side.
That's a great bet. Great info from Nick, guys, on how to on how to lock in, one of our profits and cover some potential losing bets that we hope are still winning bets. So
Yep.
We'll continue on right now.
Yeah, we still win. Still win them, and we still have our big bet on the 3.5, which
Yeah.
I loved our position there. So I don't have any reason to change that.
While we did cash out the 1-1 bet, it just goes to show you early on, after those 2 strikes, there's 70 minutes left, and you figure the bet is dead. But we got to a point where we were able to cash out a profit on it. And sometimes in this game, it's almost like investing in stocks. Is if you can pull a profit out, you really should. If you have a book that allows you the option to cash out or to hedge against it, because at the end of the day, it's about building your bankroll, protecting your bankroll, and continuing to make money on week to week, right? So if you're only betting because you need the money that day, and you're probably not practicing bankroll management.
Correct. Somebody was asking about the books we're using, which is it's Bet365 for the live show. As more and more states go, Bet365 is not available everywhere, but as more and more states go legal with gambling.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We're going to have a corner goal.
Yeah, goal for Tottenham. So we got out of the 1-1 just in time. It looks like it was a goal off a corner kick. So I think there's someone who's happy who was hoping for the Tottenham win and over 2-1. Real nice header by that's Alderweireld, I believe. So
Alderweireld, yeah.
2-1 Tottenham right now. They are minus 700 on there. So they are up now 2-1 in this game. The under 3.5 is now one that we'll have to sweat right now. But that line is the over 3.5 is plus 200. The under is minus 250. So it's one nick that I'll see what they're offering us as far as a cash out, and we can, I'm going to guess, still lock in a profit on that. They're offering us a 14% profit on our wager. 14. So no, actually it's no, I'm wrong there. 10, 20. I'm trying to convert this. They're offering us a 23% profit on our wager if we cash out now.
Okay.
On that. The corners, which is at 9 now, is also one that with 10 minutes left, we can cash out a profit on it, and I'm going to do that just because 2 corners will lose this bet, so we're going to cash this out for a profit, only because sometimes that one corner leads to a double corner, so you want to get out of those ones, right, where there's a play. And Arsenal, wow, Tottenham came close to scoring again.
I know. Yeah, that header kind of just was totally, that's Arsenal, right? They were controlling the second half and even against the run of play for sure. But set pieces, you never know. You never know. Anything can happen. Good. A team that can execute well on set pieces can still win a game even when they're not controlling the play on the field, and that's what we saw with Tottenham there. I still think, again, there's just not a lot of offense being generated. I think the under 3.5, I'm okay running out. I'm really glad we cashed out that 1-1. That was, I think, a great move for us. I didn't feel good about sweating out these last 10 minutes on it.
And a good call on that as well too. The great thing is that in hedging some of these out, it looks like another profitable show, which is always good. I like when they're profitable shows and stuff, and then getting out of some wagers, and then some of them push, like the Tottenham first half pick'em line on the 2A line. The draw we cashed out on. The under corners we cashed out a profit on. The under 2.5 goals was a loss, but that was one of our pre-match fixtures, which we didn't have a lot on. So we're literally sweating out a couple bets, and while we sweat out those bets, guys, I will look for some other game wagers. The Genoa one is a 2-0 final, so any of my customers and some that took Genoa today or followed my plays today got a win there. I have the Lecce game, as I mentioned, over 3 still going, so that's one that if you guys wanted to get on, you probably have about 27 minutes to do so. Nick, you seen anything or any thoughts on some upcoming games?
Yes, hang on one second. Where did I have in Spain, La Liga? Leganes and Valencia. I had a little action on. Hang on, I forget what I actually put in there now because I don't have the lines in front of me. I will tell you in 1 second.
looking at some of the games in Italy again. Another one of the games. There's Udinese are at home against Sampdoria. Again, this is actually. Sorry.
Lasagna to score. Lasagna to
Lasagna
score,
to
right?
score. Yeah, we have to have that lasagna rule. I firmly believe that we should have a lasagna rule in place. Um, this is one of the games where um, if I plan on betting it, I'm not going to watch it. And the reason for that is that I'm thinking of taking the under in this game. I think that this is going to be a tough one, for these sides to, they're sides that a point each is a great result because you have Udinese on 35 points, um, seven above the relegation line with Lecce, and then you have Sampdoria at 32 points, who are 4 points above. 1 point helps these teams. With as far as Udinese go, 1 point literally at 36 points will see them safe in my eyes. And Sampdoria at 33 puts a 5 point gap between them and Lecce. So it's one of those ones where you start to wonder later in the game if these teams are even in a 0-0 or a 1-1 draw, whether this game nobody takes chances. This game stays under the total. That is why the draw is at plus 200 in this game. So you look at some of the exact scores, and 0-0 is plus 700, 1-1, which seems like the type of scoreline this game can finish in, is plus 450, and that's the lowest price being offered right now for exact scores.
I like Leganes plus a quarter of a goal in that against Valencia. That was the other one I had in La Liga going on today. Valencia has just been so unimpressive this whole year, and which is disappointing. They're a long storied franchise in that league, and they just cannot get anything going. And they haven't looked good since the restart. So I'm all over the home side on that one, catching a plus a quarter of a goal.
Daniel asks us if we ever go, let's say, over 2.5 in any game where the teams are evenly matched or close to each other. If you're talking about like a pre-game bet where we go over 2.5, we will if we see, and Nick probably can explain this a little bit better. But when you see like let's say goal expectancies, like when I run my numbers and totals for each and every game, and I use both a service and my own metrics for this, but there's a service out there called Opta that all the teams use. Um, Obviously, my account is a slimmed down version of that. I don't need heat maps for players and statistics, but the metrics I use there and my own help me determine what I expect to be the totals in the games, and then match them up. And if I find a discrepancy of 0.76 or more in a game, I make it a total. And the higher it goes, the higher my rating is. But I know Nick looks at a lot of expectancy for teams and goals to help determine totals. And even with evenly matched teams, if you see a couple teams that are expected to score goals and the total is 2.5, I think it makes for it a play. Nick?
Yeah, I don't think there's a direct correlation there. I don't know if Daniel was kind of hinting at, if it's evenly matched teams and you see a 2.5, that it becomes a play for that correlation or not. But it's really they're completely separate entities for me anyway. You could have closely matched teams that I like the under for a million reasons, and this was one game. These teams were very evenly matched. I had a slight lean to Arsenal, which does not look good, obviously, at this point. But we liked the under. We put more in on the under, and it didn't make sense to go over in this game to me. So it's all about expected goals. I look at the numbers. You can find there's a lot of sites that keep expected goal stats. So you Google expected goals. There's every site uses very, very similar metrics on how they calculate it, but slightly different. And it's a lot of when you watch a game and you try to calculate the expected goals in that game, there's a lot of human elements to calculating that, right? So it takes into account like which player shot from what part of the field with what foot, right?
Yeah.
So calculating that the same for every single person is impossible. However, by the time you get to the end of the match, no matter how many sites kind of do it, they all get to a very, very, very close number, which is pretty cool to see. So one site I use a lot is understat.com, or 538 has got a really good one too, where they have tons and tons of leagues, and they do power rankings for teams
Yeah.
too, which is very
538 is
helpful
good.
when you get to like Champions League and Europa League. They're really good with power rankings to help with those type of things. But both are good expected goals. I like Understat the best for expected goals. They go down to a hundredth of a goal as expected goals go. So it's just, again, the scores you see. If you just look at a result like this one, 2-1, I'm going to guess the expected goals in this game is going to be well under 2.5. And although I guess the one turnover that Tottenham got could be a pretty high expected goal number just on that, because it was a clear shot. So maybe I'm wrong in that metric, but the run of the field was different. So 538's cool because they have expected goals plus they have expected goals based on shots, and they have expected goals based on play. So they break it down in two different ways, which kind of shows, well, the shot dictated, because sometimes you do a lot of activity right in front of the goal, but you just don't generate a shot, right? But all that activity in front of the goal usually generates a shot and usually produces a goal. So they kind of calculate an additional metric, which is interesting to look at and read too. But again, it depends for the totals. It depends on what we think is going to happen as far as real chances in the game, and that's what expected goals is: real chances, not just random goals or long shot type of goals. It's real chances and how often those happen.
Okay, as we're in the 92nd minute, starting the 93rd, so there's a couple, literally 2 minutes left in this. So as we're winding down our show, a couple notes for you guys. We'll post on Twitter what our next game is. It'll likely be next Saturday. We'll return to regular schedule unless Nick has another big barbecue planned.
I do
If he
not.
doesn't, then we're good to go. We'll pick a good game, something with some action in it. Um, Obviously, our Wednesday and Friday shows that go at 1 o'clock, our regular stoppage time ones. Wednesday with Pavlos, uh, Friday with Kevin Dolan. Tune into those ones, guys. We love when you guys watch and give us feedback on shows that you want to watch. We're going to try and get as many plays and stuff out to you. So a guy that mentioned, the Toronto game. That was supposed to be this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time was canceled against DC United. They had talked about, but obviously I haven't checked the news while we've been doing the show, that it might be played tonight at 8 o'clock. I don't know or can't see how that could happen. There's still a couple games that are scheduled to go tonight. Apparently, there was one unconfirmed positive test and one test that was inconclusive. And the MLS protocol calls for, unless they're conclusive tests, that the teams head to the stadium and play the game. DC United did do that. Toronto didn't do that. They stayed at the hotel. So more news will be forthcoming, but it looks like that game was canceled, postponed, and likely canceled for the day, and they'll figure out where to go from here on out as far as that goes. One more thing to add before I throw it to Nick. For the guy that was looking at the Leicester-Bournemouth game that goes in about 35 minutes. If you're looking at it from a Bournemouth point of view, it's probably a low-scoring game. So if you like Leicester, you can get 1-0 plus 700, 2-0 plus 600, plus 700 on 2-0, and if it's a 1-1 draw, plus 700. Those are the three lowest prices for this. Tottenham, final score 2-1. That was paying plus 1,000 or 10-1 on the pregame exact score line. So
Screwed it,
sorry,
Carm.
Nick. Nick, I think you owe me a beer in Vegas. So
I think that's a small token of what I
it,
for that one. But at least we cashed the 1-1. We cashed out
yeah,
the
we
1.
did. We made some profits on the show, and that's the most important thing, especially as it's going to charity. Next week will be the last of, not the last of the in-game betting, but the last for the charity that we're doing it for, which is a dog rescue in Vegas that Kelly and Minty have tweeted about, and that we will get the money to them for that. But this is a pretty good game. It's a shame that we couldn't hit all of our wagers, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. And Nick, I'll let you take it out.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy we cashed out the 1-1. I'm happy we went live with the under 3.5. That was our biggest bet. Again, I think the position originally of the under was the right one. A couple, I don't want to say unfortunate, but a couple goals that probably aren't normally there with a bad defensive play, or two bad defensive plays, and one that led to an easy goal, but one that was still a difficult goal from Lacazette. So I think our positions were right. I'm glad we read the game on that same metric and were able to put a bigger bet on the under 3.5 live, and we stuck to that. And the cashing out 1-1 was huge because that only lasted about 3-4 minutes, and then they scored. So I'm most proud of that one.
Yeah, no, I'm happy about it. You know, what I mean, quite possibly that turned into one of our second biggest wager, just because the price of 3-1 on the on our pregame bet um, turned into very good money, and then your recommendation and play, which we took, which was under 3.5 in the game, at a time when we were getting the right price on the under. That worked out great for us. It's always good when you cash the big ones and wipe out the small ones and small profits. The total corners in that game ended up going over 10.5. So cashing out the corners for a profit worked out for us. So guys, listen, we appreciate you guys coming on, watching this show with us. Best of luck with the rest of your wagering day.